And if you're speaking and the child is kind of just not even noticing that you're there, you're just kind of a little insect in the corner, then you need to talk louder and be more exciting. You can do it. I know you're an exciting person. You're an exciting person, right? I know I am. It's Christy with the Chirp YouTube channel. Thanks for joining me today. Today we are going to continue this series on autism and the core deficits of autism, because we want to be able to address those core issues and start working on them, even as we are looking for professionals to help us along that path. Please do be looking for professionals. I have links for those down in the information box so you can start that journey. It's important to get the right people on board. Once again, if the first person you find isn't the right person for you, for your child or your family, keep looking. There is someone better out there for you. I just know it. Today, we're going to be talking about kids who fail to respond. For example, if you call your child's name Alex, and Alex does not even turn around, respond at all, even though you know your child can hear. Before we assume that a child is not responding, we do need to make sure that the child is capable of hearing. I know more than one child who actually had a hearing deficit, but who was thought to be simply not responding. And language learning time was lost in the meantime. So if your child is not responding at a time when you think your child should be responding, which is very early in life, please head to an audiologist and get your child's hearing tested. It does not matter whether your child can respond to a hearing test. There are tests that they can do that do not require a response from the individual. So don't be discouraged and don't not go just because your child can't respond to the yes, I hear it on this side, yes, I hear it on this side sort of test. There are other kinds of tests. Once you know that your child can in fact hear, then we need to work on the non-responding part of it. One of the core deficits in autism, of course, is in the area of social communication and responsiveness. It's a problem for social relationships if a person does not respond. Of course, the first thing we want to kind of work on is the fact that kids might not respond to their name. This is a very big question that comes up regularly for families of kids with autism. They're very concerned because they call their child's name and their child doesn't respond in any way and may not even recognize that that name means him. As with so many issues in autism, a child with an autism spectrum disorder doesn't learn as easily from the environment surrounding him. He needs to be taught specifically and discreetly some of these skills, and responding to comments or questions or his name is one of those things that sometimes needs to be taught very discreetly and purposefully. I'm going to give you 5 strategies today to begin this process. The first one is to pair your verbal language, your verbal communication, when you're trying to get your child's attention or when you need a response, with some physical touch. We don't want to just be putting our hands on kids all the time, but there is nothing wrong with when you say, Alex, if you put your hand gently on his shoulder or you pat his shoulder. If he's really tiny, you might pat him on the top of his head because they're so cute when they're really tiny. So you might say, Alex, and pat him at the same time. What this does is it begins to pair the word in his brain with the idea that a response is required when he hears that word. Alex. Then you might move around to the front if you're not already in the front and get down at face level and say, Alex. We want to make sure that we are communicating with kids on their level, at a volume that is acceptable, not too loud, not too quiet, and in a way that isn't off-putting. So if that particular kid doesn't do well with eye contact, we don't need eye contact. from him, but we do need to be looking at his face and judging if we're too loud, too quiet, too far away, too close, all of those things. We need to keep all of those things in mind when we are communicating with the kid and expecting some kind of response. So that's the first tip. Bing, bing, bing. Pair the verbal language with some sort of physical contact. Nothing offensive, just a gentle reminder that, yes, I'm talking to you. My second tip is use visuals for those areas where a response is required. This is nothing shocking. If you've been watching this channel at all, you know that I love visuals. I think they should be used in every home, whether or not your child has autism, because they're just such a great learning tool. And they help kids decrease frustration and anxiety, because when we allow them to communicate with visuals, they can do it at an earlier age. And when we communicate with them with a visual schedule or with cards telling them where we're going, it's just so much easier for them to handle life when they have realistic expectations and when they can communicate about them with you successfully. Once again, we want to pair these with the verbal language. An example of this might be you ask your child, Alex, do you want an apple? And he just doesn't respond. So you hold up yes and no. Alex, apple, yes, no. Yes, no. If he doesn't respond, you take his hand and you help him hand you the no. And you say, no apple, and then you are finished. If he reaches for one of them, you help him finish the comment. If he reaches for the yes picture, but doesn't quite know what to do with it, then you help his little hand pick the yes and put it in your hand and say, yes, apple, yes. That is an example of using visuals. Another example, it doesn't have to be pictures of things. You can use the items themselves. Apple, watermelon. Apple, watermelon. And you put them close to his face and you say apple, watermelon. This implements the idea in that little brain that this is a time when a response is required. Because of the social deficits in autism, sometimes a person doesn't actually realize when a response is required and when it isn't. Because that child isn't tuned into the world around him, because he is socially disconnected from other people, he doesn't realize that when you say, Alex, do you want an apple? That he needs to respond to that. That seems just like more waves, more noise waves going through the air that don't necessarily respond to him. But if you put the apple in his face and say, apple, then he's more likely to do something with it. If he doesn't do anything and you don't have a yes or no card, you can just push the apple away with your own hand and say, no apple. Another type of visuals that you might want to be using is a communication book, and I have a whole series about that up there. A lot of times, if your child needs to make a decision but isn't really responding to your verbal prompts to do so, you can hold the book in front of the child with it open to the first page where the items are that the child can decide, can pick from. So if it's snack time, then there's a page that just has appropriate snack foods in it. And if it is time to get dressed, maybe there are pictures of different outfits the child could wear. As far as outfits, you also can just hold up the t-shirt and the sweatshirt and let your child pick which one he wants to wear that particular day. You can say, do you want the purple one or the green one? Green, whoops, the other way around. Green or purple? Green or purple? And as your child, if your child still doesn't respond, bring them closer and closer. And at some point, all but the most disengaged kids will pretty much reach for one or the other, or they'll push them both away. And then you can say, no, thank you, and pick something other than green or purple. As you can see, while we're working through the use visuals section of this video, also you should be doing number 3, which is modeling. You need to model the language that you want your child to use. So when you provide your child with 2 items and he's supposed to make a choice between the 2, if he reaches for one, that's not the end of things for you. That's not the end of this discussion or this training opportunity. You need to model what you would like him to say in the future. So if you're offering the apple or the watermelon and he reaches for the apple, you say, apple, or apple please, or whatever you want your phrase to be. Don't make it too long. If you are holding up 2 outfits, the green and the purple, your child reaches for the purple, you say, purple. You want to model what you want the child to do. And you want to model it exactly in the language that the child should use. Imagine the child is a parrot, and you want to teach the parrot exactly what to say. You don't want to teach the parrot, Alex, do you want an apple? You want to teach the parrot, apple please. The parrot being Alex. Tip number 4, strategy number 4 is affect. If we want a child to respond to communication from us, then we need to be interesting, because whatever is going on in that child's inner world is very interesting to him. Somehow, I need to compete with that. So I need to have maybe changes in my pitch. Maybe I talk real high sometimes or real low sometimes. Maybe I use a puppet and the puppet has a weird voice that's different from mine. I do this in my classroom a lot. When a child is not paying attention, I'll take a toy and say, Jackson, do you want some snack? And then things are different. It's weird. And kids tune in a little bit better. Change your prosody. So if you normally speak very quickly, perhaps you speak slowly. See if that grabs your child's attention. Make sure that you have interesting facial expressions. Make sure that you are speaking at the appropriate volume for that particular child. If you're talking and the child is backing away and wincing, then you're probably speaking too loudly for that particular sensitive child. And if you're speaking and the child is kind of just not even noticing that you're there, you're just kind of a little insect in the corner, then you need to talk louder and be more exciting. You can do it. I know you're an exciting person. You're an exciting person, right? I know I am. That's why we do this, and that's what makes it fun. My 5th tip is repetition. These are very simple things, and yet we often forget to do them because of the routine of our daily lives, because we're in a pandemic and the stress level is high and our kids are around far too much and the schools are not able to sufficiently provide what we need. We often kind of, at least I would, if I had a kid at home, I would get very tired of doing the parenting things that I thought I should be doing. And so, pick just a few. If this is an issue that your kid is having trouble with, then pick these things. Do these things every day. Don't just make the decision for your child just because he doesn't respond when you ask him yes or no. Don't just grab him and motor him around just because you can't get his attention. Keep trying. Tap him. Get in front of him. Use these strategies and keep it up because they really do make a difference. Kids learn. Kids are wired to learn. And when we teach them in the way that reaches their brains, they learn better. And these are strategies that reach the kids of brains who have autism spectrum disorders. So don't give up. Don't be afraid to repeat yourself. Don't be afraid to repeat the same strategies. Even on those days where you can't see anything happening, neurons are firing and things are stewing in that little brain and improvement is happening. Thanks for watching this video today. Leave questions down below and check below for any additional resources you might wish to take advantage of. I will see you in my next video and I hope you have a great week. Bye.